It's time for the Audiozone. Here's your interview from the Unified Fields, Andrew Basiago.
Hi there, everyone. This is Jessica Schab, also known as Jessica Mystic, and I'm here interviewing Andrew Basiago, who has physically teleported to Mars and also to the past, to the Battle of Gettysburg, and the future, 2013. I met him at James Gilliland's ranch. We were both the speakers and presenters, and so I'm very pleased to have you all meet Andrew Basiago.
I appreciate that.
So we have so much to talk about. Where do we start?
Well, I was thinking today that we could talk about the fact that my paper, The Discovery of Life on Mars, which I published in 2008, which is the first work of science or literature to prove that Mars is an inhabited planet, has a very interesting provenance. In fact, there are data points that relate to the paper that go back to my childhood and the involvement of my late father, Raymond Francis Basiago, who was an aerospace engineer and an electrical engineer who worked for the Ralph M. Parsons Company, but also did work for the U.S. Defense Department, to include the U.S. Air Force and U.S. Navy. And as a result of our project experiences on DARPA's Project Pegasus, there is a linkage, a very profound linkage, that the public deserves to know about the recent discoveries of life on Mars that I've made and information that was in the possession of the U.S. government even 40 years ago, not just establishing that Mars is an inhabited planet, but that 40 years hence I would play a role in developing human understanding about that fact. So let me just explain the different incidents in my childhood that link to my discovery of life on Mars just recently in my late 40s. The first incident that I can remember occurred around 1967 or 68. I was about 6 years old. I had been born in September of 1961, so I'm just estimating based on how old I was when this particular event occurred. What happened was my dad was working at that time for a subsidiary of the Ralph M. Parsons Company called Parsons Jordan Corporation. And the research that I've done over the last 10 years into my experiences on Project Pegasus and my late father's and that of others who were attached to the project showed that Parsons Jordan was a company that was created by Parsons to really implement one contract, which was a copper contract that it had with an engineering project involving copper development that Anaconda Corporation was doing in South and Central America, most especially Chile. But my research showed that it was being used as a cover for U.S. time-space research, namely the development of time travel technology on behalf of the U.S. Defense Department, which is in fact what the entire thrust of Project Pegasus was. And so I was enrolled in a public grammar school in New Jersey, not far from my home, and just living during my conventional life in New Jersey, a fairly happy and conventional childhood, growing up in a post-war suburb. I was the youngest of 5 children. And one particular evening after dinner, we had eaten dinner, but my dad was delayed in coming home. Frequently we ate dinner with my father. And he came home around 7 or 7:30 that night. And he had been drinking with some of his friends from work. And so he was slightly inebriated. It was as if he had had several drinks. My father was certainly not an alcoholic, quite the contrary. He was a very, very responsible and disciplined man. But like many people, including myself, occasionally he would enjoy taking drinks socially with colleagues or at some special event. And this was one of those incidents. And so he was in a festive mood, a playful mood. somewhat of a disinhibited mood. And after he ate, he gathered us around. He said, children, join me in the living room. I have something very funny to share with you. And he said, this is what this guy has written about the first discovery of life on Mars. And he was reading it as if it was maybe a comedic essay or opinion editorial out of a newspaper or something like that, kind of a Swiftian essay in which the conceit of this work of literature was that somebody was describing for the first time life on Mars.
That's all the time we have today on the Unified Field. Tune in the next broadcast. You can hear the last half of that Andrew Basiago clip, or you can go to YouTube and look up Andrew Basiago yourself, and maybe even subscribe to Jessica Schab's channel on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in and joining us today on the Unified Field. And remember, without you, there is no us. Remember to send in your stories, comments, suggestions, and ideas, events, or stories to our email address at unifiedfieldradio@gmail.com, and who knows, maybe your letter will make it onto the air. Keep your eyes on the sky and you may just be surprised, expand you into the infinite, or shrink you down to size. Keep searching for the truth. It shall set us free. I'm your host, Mr. Justin Brown, and this is the Unified Field.